Thank you for calling Death Before Desk Job. If you are this week's guest, please leave a message and Paul will call you back once he finishes the intro.
Yo, Paul, what's up, man? Sean, Washed Up Media. Just trying to get in touch with you, see if we're still doing this thing. Get back at me immediately.
Hey, this is Paul, and you're listening to Death Before Desk Job, the podcast geared towards creative people who are pursuing or who would like to be pursuing their creative endeavors to their heart's content. Folks, pat yourself on the backs, because we've made it. We've cleared the hump. What hump? Well, when you start a podcast, there's a couple of folks in suits, and they come to your house, and they say, listen here, buddy, you're going to start a podcast. Here are the rules. Actually, I kind of wish that's how it was. I'd be happy to have a visitor of any kind at this point. Really, it's more like, when I read online about what happens to most podcasts, apparently they don't clear 7 episodes. But if you've been sticking with me up to now and keeping count, this is technically by title episode 7, but there was an episode 0. So in total, there are 8 recordings, which means no matter how you look at it, we have cleared the hump. That pesky hump will not be bothering us anymore. So thanks for sticking it out with me. Thanks for helping turn this show into something really cool. And it's really cool to see it getting the reaction that it has. I'll say that the first month of April, there were just about 200 downloads. And halfway through May, we hit just about 400, which means it nearly doubled. Or, no, I don't know how to phrase that. Okay, we hit the same number in half the time. That would be the better way to say it. That's exciting. But enough about that. Let's talk about this week's guest. Videographer, photographer, graphic designer, drummer, just a multifaceted individual. But of all the things I could call him, I'm happy to call him a friend. He plays in the bands Sargasm, Intona, and Give Up the Goods. And he is also the founder of Washed Up Media. Sean Ageman is my guest this week. And, man, dude is all over the map. You'd think he'd be too busy to even talk to me, but he was nice enough to jam this interview into a Sunday night and jaw a little bit. It's funny knowing Sean as long as I have, because we met back in school and we'll get into it in the interview, but we kind of kept dipping in and out of each other's orbits, which was pretty wild. And it kind of feels like, sometimes you're supposed to know somebody. And I'm glad Sean's one of those people that the universe kept throwing at me and say, get to know this guy. You're going to want to talk to him. Yeah, if you want to find all the links to all the stuff that Sean does, you can go to the website, deathbeforedeskjob.net, click on Sean's episode, and there are links to the 3 bands, Washed Up Media, and I included a video of one of his latest releases. It's his Green Lawn Sessions. It's some BMX biking over at Green Lawn. Check it out. It's super cool. And that's there for you, deathbeforedeskjob.net. While you're there, check out the shop. And you can see some of the merch that's up there and support the show that way, or give to the Patreon. Oh yeah, one more thing. While we're talking about merch, I am working on some hopefully useful, practical merch for all you creative types out there. That is a work in progress. Yeah, until then, just stay tuned, keep listening, keep sharing. The fact that you've been passing the show around is huge. It's so exciting. And if you can hear my voice, it's because I'm tired, but I'm tired in a good way, because despite all the madness in the world around us, this is sort of a light in an otherwise dark space. So for what it's worth, if you have the lockdown blues like I do, just, Thank you for doing your thing and keeping people safe. Hopefully the sooner this is over with, the sooner things can go back to like some kind of more enjoyable way of life. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing all your faces. And yeah, that's that. Without any further ado, let's get to it. I am really, really happy I got to talk to this guy. This is my interview with the multifaceted, creative Sean Ageman. Good evening, Sean.
How are you, Paul? Good to talk to you.
It's good to talk to you too, man. How's everything going? Things
are all right, considering the state of the world, I guess.
Yeah, that's something we're all trying to deal with. I'm dealing with it in my own way too. How are you, like, managing to keep sane during all of this?
I've been keeping myself busy. I've been working a lot, which I'm extremely fortunate. I still have my day job kind of hacking away at me, and just enjoying the nice weather when I can.
What kind of work do you do at your day job?
My day job, I do graphic design work for CBS Sports. I do Photoshop work, animation work, mostly dealing with player headshots or team logos.
I got you. So if I'm watching like a clip on the game, I'll see your work like with the player in a frame or something like that?
Yeah, basically, they'll send us a picture of the player with some, cheesy photo background. We'll have to cut them out so they can, throw whatever they like behind them. Or, if there's two teams that are facing each other and they got some crafty animation, we work with the templates. It's not too hard. Every once in a while, we get to be a little more creative and put our own spin on things, I guess. But for the most part, it's fairly basic work. It's
funny. I never think about it. And until you said you did this, it's like, oh yeah, somebody's got to sit there and make those things.
Right.
Why do I not think about it that way any other time?
I guess it's one of those things where, like, sometimes you got to remember that every single industry, regardless, has some kind of media, necessity, whether it's sports or, as you were talking about in one of your earlier podcasts, pharmacy packaging, which I remember that presentation, by the way.
Oh,
from SBA.
You were there. Yeah. That's right.
I was there. I was in that room with you.
Yes. Context for the listener, Sean and I met at the School of Visual Arts, and I'm going to put that around 2009.
Yeah, I guess so. It was I was like halfway through like my first year. I just transferred over and we met that semester, I believe.
Right. And turns out we didn't realize that we both came from Long Island until we bumped into each other on the train. Like, I think it was may have been our last year.
Yeah, I remember finding out towards the end of school that we were like, oh, wow, like we were, because you were like, I'm from East Meadow. And I was like, oh, I live in Amityville. And it was just kind of so funny to find out. But the real fun part was when we bumped into each other like a year or two after that. That was when it was really funny.
Yeah, that was at must have been one of the early Tooth shows.
It was at a Centerville party. And I specifically remember being so surprised to see you. And it's like, Paul, what are you doing here? And you were like, what am I doing here? Like, these are my friends. Like, what are you doing here? Because I had recently started hanging out with Nick Ray and Anthony from Westfall. So I was invited to a party and then ran into you. And then I put two and two together and I realized, oh, wow, this is his group of friends.
Yeah, worlds collide in the weirdest possible way. And yeah. I blows my mind. Yeah, and I would never have realized that you would have been showing up to parties that I was helping to organize at a house like years later.
Exactly.
I can get down this rabbit hole all night, and I'm going to try to avoid it because I have so many.
I know, man. It's funny. We'll keep the history of that. That's all.
Yeah, I have so many things I want to ask you because your body of work is so broad, and you seem to be everywhere and involved in everything. And I don't know if you have a clone or. I don't know how you end up in so many places at the same time and how you manage to just constantly be putting out this output while holding down the job that you hold and making it work. So you have Washed Up Media, which I'll let you put into your own words. What does Washed Up Media do?
Washed Up Media is a production company. We produce media. I do a lot of video content, a lot of photography work. Primarily, we work with musicians. So what we also do is we also got into show organization. I put on events, I put on concerts. We work with a lot of the local bands in the Long Island area. I do a little bit of graphic design. I've done some logo work for a few people. And that's, for the most part, it. And BMX, a huge passion of mine is BMX. And that's how kind of Washed Up started. And now seems to be getting back involved with that a little more, which is something I'm very happy with.
That is interesting to me because I do remember seeing the BMX thing and thinking that it was part of your origins. Did you get into video work because of BMX?
So I was always that kid, I guess, cliche kid that would take his dad's like video camera from when I was probably as young as 6. Me and my friends would go what we would call exploring, which is basically just trespassing. And we would film. We were little kids having fun at the park. Going behind do not enter signs. Fast forward a few years, teenage years, BMX became a huge part of my life. And yes, so filming, that really became a big roots of like my inspiration to pick up a camera, because I loved like watching BMX and I loved also capturing the moment of just life. And so I wanted to have a camera to film these moments. And my earliest memories of video editing was done all on camera, which obviously is not efficient. And I would like put headphones up to like the microphone to get like the song in the video. And obviously, every time I would cut scene, the song would cut to a different part, whatever. But so BMX and just like, I don't know, man, there's something about video cameras and like capturing like moments that is always like just drawn my attention, like I'm very attached to that, I guess.
I could definitely see how BMX plays into your video work because you have a very kinetic way that you hold the camera. There's a lot of motion, even when I'm seeing you shoot something for a band performance. There's something about the way that you hold and use a camera that feels like a skate video of some kind, even when it's not.
That's great. I that's like my goal.
That's very interesting.
And that again, I learned how to use a camera through watching those videos and through things like that. So it makes a lot of sense for you to say something like that. Thank you. Also.
Of course. Was there any one particular group or director of these types of videos that hit home for you? Or, I understand that a lot of these skate videos are usually filmed by, other kids who are skating too, like they're holding the camera. Am I
right?
So I don't know if there is like a director.
There 100% is, actually. It totally does work the way that you're thinking. Usually that person is a rider or works for the brand.
I see. So they have directorial experience and are writers as well.
Sure. Obviously it's BMX, it's bicycle riding with tricks. So the writing aspect isn't really there so much, but the editing and directing and, connecting the footage to, be coherent and enjoyable experience, that is credited to people. And kind of like anything else, like there's a lot of people and different people have different styles, Was
there one person or group that you saw their technique and latched onto it and emulated it in any way?
There's a handful of, I guess you could call them BMX filmmakers. A lot of them kind of have gone on or also do like other types of video work. But to name names specifically, Daryl Taco, Joe Simon, Stu Johnson, and Bob Sherbo are 4 people that, like, I'm not like picky where I wouldn't enjoy a video if it was done by someone else, but like those were the people where when I would watch their videos, I would like sit down in like a different way, like I would lean forward and be like, oh, like pay attention to the camera angle, when people started using stabilizers and when things started going like digital, what cameras are these guys using to get like a certain look? And obviously it's not good to always like get like chasey like that with gear, but sometimes you need to know some information to figure out how you could do it in your own affordable way.
Right. When it comes to gear, I kind of have a split opinion of it. I mean, there's the part of me that thinks, oh, you don't need all that crazy gear. And then there are the moments where it's like the process would be easier and the result would look better. So you should absolutely get the gear. Why wouldn't you get the gear? So I'm sure it's a delicate balance of sometimes going for it and other times just working with what you have. What does your rig look like when you're out shooting something like the Green Lawn Sessions, which is what you just put out, that YouTube video of BMX work? And does that rig differ greatly from what you would bring to, say, filming a concert?
Absolutely. Although I have brought that rig to a concert in a local venue once, and I'll never do it again just because they're way too crowded. But so my rig setup for filming the Green Lawn Sessions video that I just put out is the exact same rig setup that I film for most of my music videos, actually, which is a DJI Ronin M. The camera that I use is a Sony A7S II. I have a Zeiss 55 millimeter 1.8 f-stop lens. I have a 22 millimeter 2.8 lens with a 16 millimeter fisheye converter. Now, for the Green Lawn video and for all of my BMX work, I use the fisheye because it's got that look.
Right.
It allows you to really get in there and get close. And when you can get in there and get close, for my opinion, especially with BMX or kind of any really action sports, probably any really sport in general, the closer you could get, you can feel, what's going on in whatever it is that's happening. So I feel like the fisheye is just ideal for that.
Yeah, it gives you that very immersive feeling that you don't get from another lens.
Exactly.
It's one of those things where it became sort of synonymous with, I'll say, skate, BMX, extreme sports videos. They became 100%. Synonymous with that lens.
It allows you to just get in there, man, and see all the good stuff.
I got you. And as far as like getting in there, you're putting yourself at, probably a small risk, but.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. That's yeah. And the BMX work is kind of like passion project for me, like I'm like those, I'm not out there like asking those dudes like, to like pay me to film them or anything. So yeah, I guess you could say it's a pretty high risk, but that's honestly like when I say like passion project, like I cannot emphasize that word passion enough. Like I fucking love doing that so much. Not to say that I don't love the other things I do, but that just like hits my personal satisfaction button on like such a level that other things don't. And it's just nice to be able to, push that button, so to speak.
Sure. And while we're talking about the other things that you do that bring you joy, you perform with not one, not two, but 3 different bands. You're playing drums with all of them. You're juggling a full-time job and still pursuing your creative filmmaking endeavors. Do you sleep, or is that something you gave up on?
Sleep. I'm quite fortunate where like, even as like a young kid, like I remember like elementary school days, like waking up at 6 a.m. to play video games before school or like to watch Married with Children. So
I remember when they put
which I shouldn't have been watching at that age. God,
that explains a lot.
Christina Applegate, man.
Oh, dude,
what a treat. Anyway, but yeah, so I've always been like I'm good on 5 hours. 5 hours, like I could rock it, and not in like a bad way. Like I could do 5 hours. That's not to say that I don't take naps or like I'm not like extra tired some days, or like there aren't days where I don't sleep for like 8 hours or whatever. But on a daily basis, like 5-6 hours really is good for me, which kind of has honestly just been an advantage I have. I don't know. It's just how I operate, and I'm fortunate for it,
Seriously, that's a superpower.
Again, I don't know. I mean, like I definitely pay for it sometimes, but I think when you do something that you like, you have to kind of like sacrifice something and like fucking in my book, sleep's the first thing to go because I'm not doing anything, like,
right.
So if I could stay up late and see a concert and only get 4 hours, and like at that concert, I'm taking photos and shooting pictures and able to like socialize with like my friends that I love. Like, it's, in my eyes, like, I didn't lose, I mean, in my eyes, like I go home and I sleep those 4 hours and they feel amazing, and I wake up and that kind of sucks, feeling tired, but you get up, you have a cup of coffee, you power through that first hour, and you get about the day.
I'm glad that doing the thing you love lets you sleep easy and gives you the motivation to wake up and do it again. But when I ask about like all these different things you do, you're performing again with 3 different bands, obviously.
Yeah, my bands. I didn't even talk about any of my bands.
well, what I was going to say was, you're doing all this. So there's a whole different creative outlet that requires just as much time and energy to learn and develop and get good at. It would be one thing if you were a really great filmmaker and a mediocre drummer, but you're very good at all of these things, and
thank you.
Your dedication just comes through, and I don't know how you manage it all and still walk around with such like a bright disposition. It's I envy it so much. So I guess, I don't know, is there a way that you find that helps keep you balanced and keeps things in order? And how do you manage the workload that you love to put yourself under?
Well, I mean, I'll definitely start off by saying I think I'm definitely someone that, like, creating is what I love to do. So whether I'm playing drums, writing music, taking photos, working on like a film project, trying to learn like a new trick on my bike, or just, out riding with friends, whether I'm doing any of that, like, I'm just so happy to be, like, I don't know, I guess like it's like a release. Like, I like to be able to like put in energy into something and get something out of it, whether it's any of those things. Like, it just puts like a smile on my face. And, don't get me wrong, like, smiles on your face are not going to fucking pay rent, and they're not going to, get you food at the grocery store. So, you got to really, you have to come to a point in your life where if you're going to bank on these things and you're going to make these things like present in your life all the time, you have to branch out and get better and start to do things you don't like necessarily, but are still within the bubble, like so to speak. And I don't know, man. I just feel like when I like, that's just like, it's just the kind of person I am. And like, I've had friends will be like, dude, like, you don't stop. Like, and I'm just like, I don't know, when people say that to me, I'm just like, that's just me. Like, that's just like how I need to be. Like, if I wasn't doing all these things, I'd probably be putting the energy somewhere else. And, like, let's say like the relationship, and,
right.
Someone who was in a relationship with me listens to this, please don't take any offense to this, but I feel like a lot of the times, one of the reasons my relationship ended is because I put too much effort into the things I like, and I can be a little selfish, and I have this like part of me that I have to like feed, or else like I don't feel like me. And I don't expect people, like, if I'm with someone like they don't like that, like, I don't expect them to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, I would never want someone to feel like they're less of a person because I'm not giving them attention, because I'd rather be doing the things that I love. But that's kind of like the person I am. And I don't really like plan on changing that. Like I like that. Like, that's me, like at the core, like that's who I am.
Right. So
it's interesting. I don't know.
It's a very important point, because it's something I've struggled with in the past. And even me being with somebody.
It's not impossible by any means. I don't want anyone to think I'm saying that. I'm just saying, like, I've battled with it.
Sure. Well, having battled with it, if there is somebody who is going through sort of a similar thing, because I know that other people are. I mean, we have mutual friends that just cannot do relationships because it gets in the way of their art.
I know. Then it sucks.
And then there are other people where it goes the other way. There are other people where they want to do this, but they can't because they have a partner, they have a child, they have, obviously, that's a little different. But do you have any advice for somebody who maybe is looking for that emotional connection with another person, like from your own experience, having dealt with relationships that may not have always worked out the way you wanted them to because the balance wasn't right? Is there something that you would give as a piece of advice to somebody who's like what they should potentially look for?
Absolutely. I'll give the advice that I try to follow for myself is, try your best to show that part of you as much as you can. So the person, is very aware of it. And sometimes you can't help but like things just kind of shift over time and whatever, where like, even if like it doesn't feel like it changed, one person might have felt like it changed. And those are things you just really can't control. And it's unfortunate. That's just the mystery of life and, all that stuff. But, I think being honest and, and just like trying to like let that person know like this is like a huge part of me and like I need this or else like I don't feel like me, and I guess, not to be morbid, but if someone can't understand that, then there's a whole nother book of problems, you know what I mean?
Right.
But you have to be with someone that just understands like how important it is for you to scratch those itches. That
is somber and really beautiful. I relate to it though, because
of course, man.
There's something about that motivation that you have. It's just, it's there and it's sort of insatiable. At some point it's an addiction in some way. But it's one that if you harness correctly can make you a very happy person. It's just a matter of harnessing that and getting yourself into like a process of some kind. And again, making sure that everybody's like on board. This is what you do. And are you along for the ride?
Right. Absolutely.
But regarding that process, I'm sure it's different if you're a percussionist, you're playing drums, you're writing music, and it's different if you're a photographer. It's different if you're working on a film project or even writing. Could you potentially go a little bit into your processes? Let's maybe start with like learning a song for a band you're working with or writing a song with a band you're working with. What does that process look like? And how does that go from day to day?
That's a great question. I really like that question, actually. So for drums, if I'm asked to learn a body of music, when I joined Give Up the Goods, which is the metal band that I play in, I don't know, we're also some kind of subcategory of metal, but I'm not going to bother to deal with that.
Yeah, that's a sticky underworld that you're going to get.
Yeah, man, that's a whole bag of cobwebs. I was handed essentially a half-hour body of work, and it was, it was like, all right, well, we need you to learn this. This is the set list. Here you go. And as a drummer, I think memorization is step one. So I had them send me click tracks with guitars and no drums. So when I played, I can kind of have the drums just be what I hear and what I play. And before I even sat down with it on the kit, I would drive and mouth them in the car. And when I was able to mouth it without having the drums actually underneath it, when I reached that level of memorization, that is when I brought it to the kit. Now that music was really intricate and hard, so I feel like it took an extra level of memorization that I usually don't have to tap into.
Right.
But when I'm writing, my favorite thing with writing is improvisational aspects of it, and being in the moment with the person and someone showing you an idea and it giving you an idea on the spot and you spitting that out idea, and it's not perfect at first, but like there's a part of it that's there, and like it twists and turns, and just like the progression. Like one of my bands, we were writing new songs, and we had like 3 songs, and we canned 2 of them because one of them was basically like the 2 of them, like kind of put together in a sense. And it was like one of them was the shining star, and the other 2 were like the runts of the breed. And we were like, you know what, let's just get those out of there and just put out the one. And it was only because we wrote those 2 songs prior that we were able to, reach a point of what we thought was our ideal song. Ooh. And I think that's important to kind of, I'm going to like tap into something real different but important, and something I think you and I can both relate on. You got to get your bad ideas out before the good ones come out first, and that you could apply to anything, you know.
Right.
Sometimes you have to just get out that idea, even if it's not the best. Just get it out, flush it out, look at it, and it may just inspire you or give you the motivation or the push that you need to take it and make it to that amazing final product that you want it to be.
It's crazy that you had these two songs that were just like sacrificial lambs for like the one.
Yeah, basically. That's a funny way to put it, man. That's awesome.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's essentially what happened, you know, and you know, we don't play those songs. They'll probably never be recorded, and that's okay, you know, because the other one is in the process of being tracked. So
yeah, that's awesome. And so with that project, that's Give Up the Goods you're talking about.
Yeah, that was a Give Up the Good situation, and the song that ended up being the one that we kept. We have we're dropping a single and a B-side in the relative future. We still need to track a little bit of it, but it will be coming out probably this year, hopefully.
Okay, cool, man. Well, I'm looking forward to that. But you have that process. Does that process, again, does that carry over to your other projects in Tona and Sargasm?
The improvisational aspect of what I said is basically a process I apply to the other two bands, and that's kind of like the main way I really like to write. You know, I like to be in the moment with someone, you know, bouncing ideas back and forth, you know, while we're both on our instrument. Granted, if that's not possible, you know, the modern world has made that great where you can send files back and forth. That works too. But being in the moment with someone, being able to being if you and I were to, you know, jam or to meet up to write music and you had an idea, it's I want to look at you when you play the idea. I want to you know, you really get to feel it in that sense, you know?
Yeah.
And I know within Tona especially, we really work on feel. That's a band where, for those who aren't familiar, it's like a jazzy, bluesy, pop rocky, you know, we got a chick singer who fucking kills it. I know people don't like when you pinpoint the band like that, but I do it because I think the female voice is way better than the male voice. So I'm proud to have our female fronted band.
Right.
But, you know, yeah, that's Richie's our guitar player. He'll throw out a lot of the riffs, and, you know, as a band, we kind of build on them. And, you know, it's a big, jammy improvisational process. With Sargasm, it's sometimes songs will be written in full, but for the most part, a lot of the songs, it's the same thing where someone will have an idea, we're in the room, we're bouncing it back and forth, and it just becomes whatever it is.
With improvisation being such a part of your process on a regular basis, and, you know, your experience with these three bands that you're a part of allowing for that, it sounds like improvisation is a requirement for you to feel comfortable in a project. Have you ever been involved in a project where it's just more come here, play what it is, and are you comfortable in those settings, or is that a firm no for you?
I definitely am comfortable in those settings, and I guess I just should have been a little more clear, because I mean more so improvisational relating to the writing process. And then once the song is written, we keep the format of the song. Not to say the songs remain freeform throughout their existence of life.
Right. You're not the Grateful Dead. I know what you mean.
Yeah. But yeah, with Give Up the Goods, they handed me the music that they handed me had drums that were written and recorded, and it was my goal to faithfully recreate those recordings as to the best of my ability.
I got you.
So with them, I mean, now I know the songs a little more. I could fill around them a little bit, mess around here and there. But for the first 2 years of shows, I was really, I tried to play those songs the same way every time. And I think they actually really appreciated that, because it's the type of music where we're improv is cool, but I feel with some progressive metal, the fans want to hear the songs how they are. And I feel with Goods, that was my goal, because that was when I was watching them as a band, because Give Up the Goods, ironically, was the first band Washed Up Media ever worked with. And it was also how I got into meeting Westfall, Nick, Ray, and all the, Anthony and everyone. So when I was watching Give Up the Goods, I always, kind of felt like they should be this band where it's like, it's like you want to hear those songs, like they're really intricate and tight, and like all those little moments you hear on record, you want to hear them live. So if someone's improving and missing those moments, sometimes as a fan, you're like a little disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes with music, as a fan, you want that improv, you want that fill that isn't on the album, you want that like extra guitar squeal or bend, or like that part where the band drops out and it's just the bass that, again, isn't on the album. But with Goods, I really wanted it to be like note for note as best of my ability.
Okay, so that was a choice.
Well, I think they wanted it too. I mean, they were very, very, very open with me, and they were just like happy that I was like willing to be a part of and like help them out, because they had a situation where they lost a member and I kind of jumped in.
Mm-hmm.
So they were willing to, kind of bend if I was to say something like that. But I think they were happy that was my goal, was to give them an accurate representation of the recordings.
That's probably why you fit in so well, because they saw that you were like honoring their craft, and and then you earn the privilege of being able to do it. If you want to expand upon what's there.
Exactly. I mean, also Matt, their main songwriter and a guitar player, him and I have known each other since we're like 13. So,
right.
And I've known Eric, the vocalist, like the majority of my life as well. So, it was not, the friend connection is always nice as well.
I do want to speak about the connections that you have with the people that you work with, because I think networking a community are so important, and something that gets thrown around a lot. I feel like people talk a big game with community and networking, and there's not a lot of, I don't know. I think there's a lot of squandered potential there, and I think people overlook it. I think they kind of just sort
Definitely
of scream to the community, but they don't really like listen or take it in. But I feel like you've not only been like an active member and contributing, but also consuming and sharing. And I think having Washed Up Media be the media platform that it is, you are not only partaking in the consumption of this like local music and art, but you're also putting it back out there and broadcasting. That's a special responsibility that you seem to have found yourself in. How deliberate was that from the start to become a broadcast platform, so to speak, of like what was going on the island with music and stuff like that?
It really, it wasn't at all, man. It was not the plan. This was all a result of happy accidents that led me, to realizations that led me to motivation to work harder. To give you a backstory a little bit, if that's what you want me to go and do.
If you want to give me a backstory, I want to hear it.
Sure. So Washed Up Media was originally Washed Up BMX, and it wasn't really anything more than me and, or my friends and I, and that was just like kind of the name we were going to put our videos under. If you go on Vimeo and you search Washed Up BMX, you can actually see a handful of those videos. But my friends fell out of BMX a little bit, which happens. It's life, and I was really like, well, I'm not a professional BMX rider, nor do I consider myself one to be, or I will never be on that level, and that's fine. But I was really the only one riding, and like Washed Up BMX was supposed to be about me filming other people. So I was like, all right, well, that's not a thing anymore. That idea's got to go. It's a fucking dead end. Mm-hmm. And I decided my other love is music. And ironically, the band I was in at the time split up. I just graduated college. The girl I was dating at the time, her and I split, and like I kind of fucking had nothing. I was like, you know what? I should document bands. I was like, I want to be a part of the music community, but I want to be on the other end. I don't want to have to I was tired of dealing with band members that didn't want to promote shows and didn't want to come to practice on time and didn't want to do this because it was too much work. I was tired of all the fucking bullshit. I was like, you know what? I love music still. How can I be a part of it without a band? Because I didn't have one at the time. So like Washed Up Media was like my band, right. The first band I worked with was Give Up the Goods. And I did a studio documentary for them, which is the first video on our YouTube page.
What year was that?
2013.
Mm.
It came out 2013. Technically, Washed Up Media started in 2012, but I didn't like the business going until 2013. So that's why if you look on the social medias, it says 2013. But yeah, so I met Anthony from Westfall through that process, and obviously met Ray. Now, I knew of Nick and Ray because I'm an Exemption fan, and my bands had been on shows that their band was on, and I was always watching them and buying CDs from them because everyone who was a Long Islander in the music scene, if you didn't have your head up your ass, you knew Exemption was the fucking shit, you know? So I knew of them, and then I was like, oh, wow, like, oh, like Ray from Exemption, like he works here, that's cool. And like, I just, you know, it was just like a friendship kind of budded between the people that I would see. And Anthony and I started doing a lot of work. Anthony, you know, co-owns, you know, Westfall, for the listeners who don't know.
Yes.
He did a lot. He helped me a lot. You know, he threw a lot of work my way. And through that, things like just snowballed. You know, I put myself in situations. I stayed up late. I went to shows I kind of didn't want to go to because I had work early the next day. I took pictures for free. I did videos for free. I got my name out there. And I wouldn't call it networking because I feel like when I would refer to it as networking, I would always go out and feel rigid. And I would always feel like how you, like, I feel like you kind of said this earlier, like I would feel like I was like doing something, like I was forcing it out. And that's not how networking doesn't work good that way.
Right.
So that's bad networking. So I just kind of like was like, I'm just going to go hang out. I'm going to go to shows by myself, say hi to people I kind of know, make new friends. And that's kind of like what I did. And it, you know, that was my networking, you know, like
right.
just being a social person, going out by myself was kind of like a big thing I would do. I mean, I don't do that anymore because we're quarantined,
right.
But like, you know, you could ask most of my friends, I show up wherever, like alone, or unless I was like dating someone at the time, but you know, like I'm going out. I like to go out alone. It's nice. You never know what's going to happen. You know, you kind of, you know, it's like a wild card, you know, you never know who you're going to, I've gone to a show that I, at the time, didn't want to go to because I was tired, but I told my friend I would go see his band. If I didn't go to the amount of contacts, quote unquote, I made from that show and the amount of work that led to is insane. And I could have just been like, oh, I don't want to go to that. Because how many times do we all feel like that? You know, I don't want to go to the show. But I was like, you know what? Fine, I'll go. And it was one of them, you know, again, not one of like wasn't a life change. You know what? It was a little life changing, actually.
In some respect, yeah. I mean,
in some respect, it actually was.
I can see that. I gotta say, I'm just tripped up over the fact that you don't like that you have to almost psych yourself out because calling it networking makes you rigid. Yeah,
it makes me feel like I'm like I feel like I work better and I'm more well received when I feel like we're just kind of like hanging out, being social, not like, you know, not to say like if we gotta, you know, make, you know, get serious and work, I can't do that. But when it comes to networking, I feel like that's when I can be the best at it.
You know, networking is just the word, you know, and I mean, I can understand why you feel that way because there is something that can definitely come off as insincere when you call it networking, because networking automatically has the association of a business head behind it and like no heart leading. So
there's an agenda.
Yes, exactly. So the fact that you put yourself in this position where you're just like, I'm not going to network, I'm going to go hang out and meet some people. It's a lot more sincere. And I think that sincerity comes off and makes you a person that more people want to work with by proxy because you're sincere. So it's like going in with that attitude, I think is wildly helpful. And I don't know if you're anything like me where you're like, I don't want to go in and do that because you feel like you're going to be insincere and you feel like you're going to be perceived as some sort of like sleazeball. That's my own personal dilemma.
Sometimes I do feel that way when, depending on the situation, if I'm treating it like a little more rigid.
Yeah, that's what I do. And if it's like, I'm going to this because it would be good to talk to people because I can get more work out of it. If that type of language starts coming out of my mouth, like on the way there, I'm like, I can't do this, and I'll turn around.
Yeah, because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like it. Like it feels like, I don't know. I mean, like that's not to say like my goals to go hang out or like have like preconceived like notions behind them. It's just like I feel like it's just better to just treat it like it's a part of you. And like in my mind, I guess I learned networking in college, where it was really, utilized the most in my life, at that time was college. It was like networking is what you got to do. And I feel like, again, to repeat myself, when I call it that, it loses it's not sincere anymore. It's just, I feel like it sucks the life out of it. And that makes me not want to go do it. Like you were saying, like you're sitting in the car, like, oh God, I don't want to go in there. Like,
yeah,
I've been, yeah.
Well, I don't know. I just think that was important to draw attention to, because I think the sincerity pours out of your work. I think because you love what you do. I mean it sincerely, of course. It just
word.
That word. It seems to come so naturally to you, and it's definitely done by somebody who you could tell doesn't want to be anywhere else, and that shows. It shows that that's true, that you want to be doing this more than anything.
Absolutely, man. I really do.
Is there anything else that's like in your line of sight? Like something you want to be doing that you're just like not quite ready to do yet? Like, is there a new territory that Sean Ageman is looking to break into?
Yes, there is, and I don't like talking about those things because then they're harder to make come to fruition. But I will. Okay. But I will talk about them because this is a podcast, and that's what we do here. We talk about things.
I'm not here to break a ritual.
No,
like I'm not here.
No.
Okay.
No. I really want to start doing short films.
Okay.
Now I want to start with short films because they're easier to tackle. It's a more manageable process. But a lot of my video work, I've done a few videos that incorporate mild narratives, and I'm very happy with how they went. And the people that I worked with in those situations were amazing people, and I want to do more of that. That is my goal. I want to write like weird, fucking 3-minute short films that when you're done with it, like nothing like disgusting happened, but like you just don't know why you feel like unsettled or like like. Not that they have to be niched to things like that, but like right. I want to connect with people on that level. Like I have a fascination. To bring this back to sleep. Like I don't know why. Like I have like a very weird REM sleep situation where like it's like a lot of the times when I get to REM sleep, I know I'm in REM sleep, and I'm like. I don't know, man. Like sometimes it's just like not cool. Like I've had nights where it's like I'm afraid to go to sleep because I don't want to dream. Which is I know we're touching on like a different topic now, but like there's a feeling about that, and like I want to like express that feeling that I get in those moments in like a visual short narrative or something.
That's so interesting.
That was a bit of a rant, but yeah.
No, keep going,
like,
man.
That's like my goal. I mean, I had a handful of music videos booked. With some bands, some awesome local bands, but a lot of those got, they're kind of canned, because of the social distancing. Hopefully things kind of, I don't really know what's going on with that. So, we'll see. I think like you said in one of the beginnings of your other episodes, like there's basically we don't know when this is ending, and for those projects, it's very unfortunate because there's no, I don't know when we get to do those.
The uncertainty is the killer for me. For everybody and for everybody else. I mean, and as far as killers go, considering this is a disease that is killing people, I'll take uncertainty over when I'm going to get to go to Chuck E. Cheese again. Not Chuck E. Cheese. I couldn't think of a restaurant. I'll take it over Applebee's. Thank you. I was like, what restaurant I don't want to say McDonald's. That would be shameful. Let me go with Chuck E. Cheese.
Chuck E. Cheese is way cooler.
Yeah, I agree, man.
They got a ball pit.
Dope. I should, dude, that would be a good just quarantine project, just setting up like a ball pit in the house and figure that out.
Ball pit's definitely not quarantine safe these days.
Well, no, I mean, but if it's my own.
True. Okay.
That's what I'm
personal
saying.
Ball pit.
Yes.
Quarantine safe.
Yeah. 100%. Like in the living room.
not quarantine safe.
Yeah, I would not recommend any of that. But and regarding the REM sleep thing, I think I'm super fascinated with that because I don't know if I'm repeating myself, but I have my own sleep problems as well.
But yeah, I sleep's like my friend, but like not my friend, and it's kind of always been that way. She's a devilish mistress.
That's exactly how I feel about it. It's just
devilish one.
Yeah, the necessary evil that I have to deal with. I mean, for me, it's falling asleep is always the biggest challenge. I've got sleep apnea to boot, so there's
that's rough. Yeah, that's like a real problem.
Yeah, I got the I had the machine and that broke.
You do? Okay, good. Well, at least you got that. I'm sure that helps to some degree.
Yeah, no, the machine helps. Right before quarantine happened, the machine broke. And then I got some other contraption. I've tried to explain this to people, and all right, let me make myself vulnerable and weird. I had it looks like almost like a pacifier, but it's like a bulb you put in your mouth, and it like holds your tongue by like a vacuum, so that your tongue doesn't roll back and block your airways when you sleep, so you don't snore. And it's been like this little dumb contraption I got on Amazon for like $20. It's been like my saving grace to this quarantine. But like, as soon as it's safe to go to a doctor again, I gotta go and be like, I need a new machine, and I gotta get, you just got to get it. Like it's a whole thing. But all that to say is that I am fascinated by the sleep thing, and I'm fascinated by the fact that you want to go into this new territory. It just shows me that like, you're not done. Like nobody's ever done. It's a life sentence, like.
Yeah, man. And I got trapped for a little bit, and I kind of had to take a step back from the work I was doing, maybe like a year or two ago, and go like, all right, hold on. Like, what's the goal here? What's the direction? What does the long term look like? Because I felt like I was getting stale. Yeah. And I'm sure, if there's any artists listening to this, I'm sure yourself, that's not a good feeling. It's scary, Mm-hmm. But I don't feel like that anymore, so that's a good thing.
That's good. Is there any sort of like thing that you do on a regular to like prevent yourself like from getting stale? Like, is there a certain exercise or practice that you take part in that maybe helps you assess like, am I on the right track, or is this getting old?
Ironically, I stopped doing things. So I was, if you want to maybe flash back to like 2018, 2017, on the Washed Up Media YouTube channel, I was doing, what I was calling Washed Up Bootleg, which was basically like I'd go to a show, I'd film a song, like, probably I shouldn't have filmed it, but it's 2020 or 2018 and people don't care about that anymore. And I would post it. And I was like really like I was putting a lot of my energy into that, like getting those, doing one every week. And I like, that was like kind of becoming the bulk of my video work, which was good for a little bit. Like I kind of really liked it. Like I got in flow, and I was, seeing some results. I kind of like, as corny as this sounds, but when I go on my YouTube videos and I see like random comment, like, oh man, thank you so much for filming this video. Like, I'm that guy that leaves those comments on videos. So when I see that, man, like that just hits me, and I love that. Yeah. But unfortunately, that type of work as a creator, you don't have a lot of control. Right. You don't control lighting. You don't control anything. You're kind of basically going rogue. And I felt like I was like, well, if this is the work I'm putting out and I can't control it, how is that representing? I was like, I don't like that that's representing me, because I can do better. I can do controlled work that represents my brand, represents my name better. So I stopped doing them, and I took a step back. And that was when I had the idea to do more cinematic style videos. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, like about just filming. Cause I went to school with you as, we were graphic designers. I mean, I did motion graphics as well, but I never went to film school, and I never went to photography school. So I know there's a lot of key things that I did not learn. So I tried to learn those things, and I'm sure there's still plenty of things that I still don't know, obviously, but I felt like I taking a step back and like kind of breaking my work down, and then, rebuilding it a little bit, so to speak, and not taking an extremely long time to do that, was like something that helped me not feel stale anymore. You know, I had to reapproach my approach, so to speak.
I love that.
Yeah. So now I'm in that wave still, and I'm trying to push that mentality, you know, and it's been going well. And, I'm happy, so I can't complain.
Good, man. I'm glad to hear that. And I'm glad to hear that you kind of keep tabs on yourself and kind of like just are constantly, I usually don't like to say this, but I'm glad you are doubting yourself sometimes.
Oh my God, dude. I'm painfully realistic, sometimes to a fault, but at the same time, I think that is one of my best qualities in terms of, like being able to be remotely successful, I guess, like being able to like critique yourself. And I have SVA to thank for that, that's been, one of the things that I feel like has allowed me to just get better at whatever it is I'm doing, whether it's drums, BMX, photography, video, anything, that being able to take a step back and look at yourself and go, okay, like I haven't been getting better. I want to get better. What's going on here? How do I fix that? How do I relook at that? Sometimes it's, this is real interesting, and I don't want to tangent too much, but
please.
I took 4 drum lessons with Billy Reimer. And for those who don't know who Billy Reimer is, he's a Long Island drummer. He played drums for the Dillinger Escape Plan for the last half of their career, basically. And he's done a ton of other Long Island projects. Mm-hmm. He played with Envy on the Coast. I think he tracked a Glassjaw album. Anyway, I took 4 drum lessons with Billy, and he, we like hung out a few times. He's a really nice guy, and he really liked the drum lessons were great. They weren't anything too like different, but they were, like it was interesting to get a lesson from someone of that stature in my eyes. It was very like, he was like a god to me, and I didn't want to make him feel like that because that's weird. But like as a drummer, like I really looked up to him. So I tried to take the lessons very seriously. And he didn't tell me anything new, He showed me like a few new techniques, but like in terms of like, like getting better, he didn't tell me anything new. But what it was the way he said it and just hearing it from him. I was like, how do you get better? And he was just like, dude, like, there's no fucking, like, you got to fucking practice, dude. And I was just, and like, just hearing, and like, I don't think he said it that way, but, he was like, he's like, you just got to practice. And how many times as a musician or, anything, whether you're an athlete, anything, you just got to practice to get better. But it was hearing it from him on that day, whether it be that moment in my life, whatever it was, when he said it, it clicked. And I think sometimes hearing it from the right person really is what you need to kind of like just kick yourself in the ass,
Right. Yeah, no, most definitely.
I don't know. I just thought that was that's like an interesting example of just like, he didn't teach me anything, but he just, it just like really hammered in the lesson of your hard work will take you where you want to be. Now, granted, there are things in life that will derail that, and people have unfortunate situations where, you can't control. But for the most part, you put your hard work in, it'll take you, that sail will fucking set.
Hell yeah, man. I couldn't agree with that more. There's not much left to touch on. I think that's like a really solid piece of advice, which kind of would have been my like final major talking point is
my tangent.
Well, no, I mean, just talking about like getting advice from somebody.
Absolutely.
Because usually I like to try to touch on the advice at the end, and that is a really solid piece of advice. But when I'm going to talk to you about advice,
sure.
I want to specifically talk to you about how Washed Up Media and how your efforts as a creative went from something that you just did because you were paying your dues, and how that turned into, I'm doing this, so pay me. Like how it turned into something that you are respected for, and how you respect yourself, and how you do this thing that you love, and that can be lucrative for you, that can result in financial gain. Is there any advice you have for somebody who is maybe at this point where they're like, I'm doing this thing that I love, but it's not paying? Do you have any advice on the subject of knowing your worth and getting that out of a potential client?
what, in terms of taking that next step, like jumping from I do this as something that I love, but it's like a hobby, to like, I want people to pay me to do this, and I want to feel confident that people are paying me. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes.
My advice to anyone in a situation like that, where they feel like they may be in that midpoint of, they want to start charging for their work, is you need to take a step back, first of all, and just, or at least what I would do. I hope this doesn't seem too critical. I would take a step back from my work and be like, do I really feel like I'm at that mark? And if you can confidently say yes, then good, and you need to then just start kind of pitching yourself as a professional. Now, you may have to do, as you already know, like a few things to build. If you want to do headshots, you might have to grab a few friends and do some headshots, and get a body of work that you can present to someone as a professional. That's what you need to do. You need to be able to show someone that you are a professional and that they need to give you their money for your services. And you need to do that by showing them work that makes them go, oh yeah, this person does this for a living. It's that simple. You don't have to show them the world's greatest headshot. You have to show them one where they go, yeah, I just need a headshot. Or, if you're working with a band that, you don't always have to. I think it's also important to not only, to not go that route, but you just gotta be confident in your work and have professional work to show people, to sum it up.
Right. It's a matter of just getting anything to be able to say, I've done this.
It's also the confidence, though, because if you don't have that confidence in presenting the work to someone, they may never see it. You really gotta, you gotta go like, that's my favorite. That's the picture. Like, if I saw that and I wanted a headshot, I would want that guy to take my picture. Or, if it's a music video or a live performance, that kind of mentality, I guess, applied across the board.
Right on. That's very solid. Confidence is key. Sean, I think this has been incredibly eye-opening, and I appreciate everything that you've shared. And I don't know, is there anything else you might want to say before we wrap this all up?
Yeah, I'd like to just give a quick thank you to any of the bands that have ever hired me, or anyone that has ever hired me, whether it was for a music video, logo, photo shoot, or anything in between. Thank you, Paul, for having me on this show. It was definitely a pleasure. I'm happy to be included in the roster of talented people that have already been included. And just, anyone that has helped me, Westfall, the Moontooth guys, I got to thank them. Moontooth has done so much for me and has, helped launch almost kind of my quote unquote career as this. They allowed themselves to be almost like my little, they're like the first band I ever did a lot of work with. So, I was happy to have that opportunity, and I thank them for that. And again, just anyone that's come to a show, any of our shows, if you came to a show, if you came to a BMX jam, if you were a part of this, if you shared a post, if you liked a post, thank you. And just keep an eye on us, because there's a lot more coming. I'm trying to do more stuff, I'm trying to keep as active as possible. And that's about it. That's it.
Well, right on. Yeah, regarding the tooth thing specifically, I would agree. They definitely served as like a springboard for some of the work that I've done too. And like,
absolutely, man.
They didn't.
Dude, I got your Fred Flintstone poster hanging up in my room right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, of course, man.
That one had some staying power, man.
I love that one.
I think I peaked. But
I seriously love that poster. Man. I wish it was bigger. That's my only complaint. Is it's like an 11x7 or yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
it's small.
It's a tiny one, but
but it's still good. It's still a gem.
I also just want to say thank you for saying thank you. And
of course, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to check out what this man does, Washed Up Media, he's humble, he's talented, and he's handsome to boot. Sean Ageman, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to me.
Of course, man. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Talk to you later, dude.
Have a good night, Paul. Let's get a beer after all this is done.
Dude, yes, please.
Absolutely, man. We'll figure it out.
All right, later, man. Have a good night.
Have a good night, Paul.
Take care. Thank you, Sean, for being on the show this week. Here are some real quick links. If you're not checking out the site, deathbeforedeskjob.net, to get the links for this episode, here they are. You can find Sean at Washed Up Media on Instagram or washedupmedia.com. You can also check out any of the 3 bands that Sean's a part of on Bandcamp. So let's see. Sargasm, right? sargasmny.bandcamp.com. Intona.bandcamp.com. That's INTONA as an intonation. And you can also get to giveupthegoods.bandcamp.com. That should be all of the links you need. And of course, if you have any questions about anything and you can't find Sean through any of the avenues I've just mentioned, you can always contact me at deathbeforedeskjob@gmail.com or visit the website. I've said the URL enough. But thanks for listening, everybody. Stay safe. Until next time, take care.